Good morning, my friend, and welcome to the fourth hour of the Greg Belfrage Show. It's great to have you along. There's a great number of stories that I wish to share with you this morning. A lot of it surrounding around last night's debates, and I welcome your comments. Of course, comment anytime, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. Very much appreciated. I want to thank you for being here. So let's get started. As to this would be these are stories that I didn't share this morning on the air. Again, I'm trying to bring you stuff that I've not talked about previously. Let's start with the dock worker strike. This is a story from the Washington Examiner. So if the dock worker strike goes on, could it be damaging coming up then in November? So the president, they're saying, has the power to act. We talked about this on the show this morning. He has the power to act and force an end to the strike under the Taft-Hartley Act. He is not willing to do that. What it would do if the president did intervene, it would impose an 80-day cooling off period during which a strike would be averted because the longshoremen would return to work while the negotiations continued. But Biden not ready to take that step. The president has said he doesn't believe in Taft-Hartley. And they say apparently, though, the administration is working behind the scenes trying to help the two sides come to an agreement. And this is where it gets interesting. A research fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute saying that if the strike drags out for a long period of time, the negative economic effects would be compounded and would definitely would be felt by voters. And he said that when West Coast ports were jammed during the pandemic, there was a cascade effect that created a supply chain crisis all across the country. And he said, so it's potentially a very significant shutdown that could really tie up the economy. And then as you start looking, if this goes on, what is this going to mean then coming up in November? And he's saying that I think Harris has to be forced into answering some questions as to what she would do, her opinion on this. Would she intervene? What will it do to the economy? And I've got to tell you that part of that just makes me laugh as if she's going to answer. She going to serve up a word salad? I mean, what is the answer going to be? There's no good outcome right now for the Democrats, in my opinion. That's what he's saying. So it's a pretty fascinating story. Again, this one is from the Washington Examiner. Let's, there are some, just looking at Steve's comments here. Finally, having all sorts of issues today. Can't watch YouTube on Chrome. Had to switch to Edge. Well, I'm glad you're here, my friend. Really appreciate those of you who follow me, whether you listen to the radio show, whether you're here during the fourth hour. Thanks to all of you. I really appreciate it. Tim Walls. Let's talk about the last night's vice presidential debate. This is Matt Vespa. I have admitted to you a number of times I'm a fan of Matt Vespa's. I like his work over at townhall.com. Here's what happened when J.D. Vance was about to shred a CBS News moderator's shoddy fact check. Yeah, which is true. You got to the moderators of the debate last night were terrible. And that's pretty widely agreed. I mean, everybody is in wide agreement that Nora O'Donnell and Margaret Brennan were absolutely terrible. It was awful last night. And Vespa writes about this today at townhall.com, saying the debate moderators were atrocious. It was a case where Senator J.D. Vance faced off against the two of them, which I knew would happen. CBS, I knew it was going to be bad. And I heard the names of the moderators. Okay, they've got Nora O'Donnell, Margaret Brennan. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Margaret Brennan to face the nation, the train wreck that show has absolutely become. I mean, and is she taking it even, driving it even? You thought things couldn't get any worse on some of these shows. But she says, or he writes here, Vespa does, Walz was unprepared, awkward, the inferior candidate on the stage, easily outmaneuvered by the more eloquent, articulate, and unfazed Vance. And it gets into it there. The Brennan offered a shoddy fact check on temporary protected status. She claimed that the Haitians were here legally. Untrue. Walz also peddled this lie, and Vance wouldn't let it slide. They wound up muting his microphone just as he was about to take Brennan to the cleaners. And you're seeing here a lot of reaction to this, people who are commenting on it. Joe Concha, CBS breaks his promise not to fact check twice. Vance finally is having none of it and fact checks Margaret Brennan on her fact check. CBS cuts the mic. This is as bad as the ABC debate. What a joke, he says. All of that said, Vance is owning the stage. Others who were saying online, Tim Walz lying about the migrants in Springfield. Migrants who have temporary protected status are not here legally. They are here illegally. Temporary protected status protects them from being deported, but they're still in the country illegally. And this is what's, I think, so amazing about this is that there's a lot of confusion regarding that. And I think you and I are kind of left to ask ourselves, is the media confused by what that actually is, or are they peddling the lie? Are they trying to create more, more confusion out there by doing this kind of thing? Gene, I'm so glad you're here. I'm really pleased to see Gene here. Greg, dude, thanks for doing this and having us. Great offering each and every day. Well, thank you, Gino. I appreciate it very much. Gene is the trivia machine on the Greg Belfrage Show. He's got it. Gene, you're the only person who's got their own theme on the show other than me, right? Because we play the theme from Gene, the dancing machine, when Gene calls in. So I'm so glad to have all of you. You guys mean a lot to me. I appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look at what else is going on. These are stories I've not shared. It's a great piece, though, by Matt Vespa at Town Hall. Again, I mention a lot of articles and when whether I'm on the air or doing this, and I can show you exactly where they're coming from. And I always encourage you to go read them for yourself. Go find out more. Go dig into it, find out more. And I do that on the air too. I try to very specifically quote where pieces are coming from so that you can go out and you can read it in more detail and draw your own conclusions. I'm a big believer in letting you draw your own conclusions where you come from. This is a story involving Donald Trump from Blaze Media, that whether CBS is saying that Donald Trump has backed out of a 60 Minutes interview, but the campaign says Trump never accepted it. So CBS starts off, fee for over half a century. Ladies and gentlemen, for over half a century, 60 Minutes has invited the Democratic and Republican tickets to appear on our broadcast as Americans head to the polls. This year, both the Harris and Trump campaigns agreed to sit down with 60 Minutes. And now, after initially accepting 60 Minutes' request, Trump's campaign has decided not to participate. That's what CBS is saying. So CBS and they're saying our original invitation stands to Donald Trump. And so the reaction from the Trump campaign, fake news. 60 Minutes begged for an interview, even after they were caught lying about Hunter Biden's laptop back in 2020. There were initial discussions, but nothing was ever scheduled or locked in. So 60 Minutes out there, please, please, please be on the program. The Trump campaign is having none of it, which is crazy. There's more to share. See what else is going on here this morning. I know this a little bit slows me down a little bit as I have to find these stories that I want to share and pull them up. While Fox News has there are a number of stories this morning at Fox News. Take a look at this. Voters react in real time when debate moderators cut Vance's mic off as he was explaining this issue. And so you've got Republicans and Democrats and independents and, all in between, and how voters are reacting. And it's pretty it's pretty incredible. What you're seeing, the reaction from Republicans is pretty in line with what J.D. Vance was saying, and they appreciate the fact he's calling out the media. I'm going to shut that off, and I will try that again. I thought I had turned the audio off. I apologize. Again, this is the okay, so let's try pulling that up again. Oh, there it is. Audio. I'm trying to kill that. I apologize. I'll just close that. And I will share some other stories with you. I apologize that I'm killing the audio on that, and yet you're still, at least I'm hearing it. So I'll move on to some other stories. Fox, the video that they have at foxnews.com auto plays. And so I'm a little reticent to share stories from foxnews.com because I hate that autoplay feature. It's pretty crazy. New York Post, as we're talking about fact checks. This is from the editorial board of the New York Post. Ridiculous fact check of a true statement during the CBS debate. And they go into this in more detail. So they say Senator J.D. Vance was accurately describing the migrant crisis when Margaret Brennan said, just to clarify for our viewers, Springfield, Ohio does have a large number of Haitian migrants who have legal status. Vance was annoyed and said the rules were that you guys weren't going to. I don't know that he was annoyed. I thought he was very, as I watched the clip, I thought he was very, he just stood his ground. He said the rules were that you guys weren't going to fact check. And since you're fact checking me, I think it's important to say what's actually going on. So then he started to explain what legal status means, started to get into it, and they cut his mic off. And so the New York Post editorial board says this was the most shameful moment in a long history of shameful moments by moderators biased against Republicans. They fact checked the truth, then stopped the politician from responding. It was this really, and I probably should have focused on this more this morning during the radio show. This really, I think, is the story. And the New York Post editorial board says it was made all the more partisan by the fact that when Governor Tim Walz told the Howler that illegal border crossings are down compared to when Donald Trump left office, which is not even close to true, no one let out a peep. Some facts are too good to check. And then they go on in more detail. So again, this is it's a piece at the New York Post written by the editorial board, and it's which is pretty incredible. Let's take a look at again. I got a number of stories that I wanted to share. The this struck me. It's a story from Breitbart this morning. They are reporting on CNN's vice presidential debate coverage when David Axelrod said that Tim Walz's answer about his false claim about being in Tiananmen Square, he said Tim Walz's answer was so garbled, it would have been best delivered in Chinese for as understandable as it wasn't. which I appreciate. And I pointed out this morning, what a train wreck of an answer that was coming from Tim Walz. So here you got, of all people, David Axelrod, former advisor to Barack Obama, saying that answer was so garbled, it would have been best delivered in Chinese for as understandable as it wasn't. I thought that was a great quote. And then, of course, he goes on what Walz did well and what terrible Vance is, and it's just so much of this is just the same old, I think, predictable things that you've seen. There were a number of I can't share that either. There were let's see if I can pull this up again. RealClearPolitics.com. Nope, they're not going to. Hold on. I got to prove I'm not a robot here. There we go. Okay, I'm going to share the screen here from RealClearPolitics.com, all one word. A number of the stories that they have there caught my attention this morning as we're talking about reactions to the debate. Scott Jennings at the Los Angeles Times. Vance won the debate, and it wasn't close. Vox, of course, thinks it went to Walz. You can see the headlines here. Weird no more. Walz, Vance humanize each other. The Standard, pretty great piece. Mr. Nice Guy flubbed it. They go on to say that was awful for Tim Walz. He flubbed his vice presidential debate against JD Vance. So Mr. Nice Guy showed up at the vice presidential debate in New York and flubbed it. Perhaps he was over-prepared or under-prepared, or just too darned Minnesota nice, as they say. But he flubbed it. Pretty crazy. Just a number of different reactions at realclearpolitics.com. Um, and editorials. The Washington Post, a polite night of substantive debate. That's really one of the big takeaways is everybody is saying how polite they were, that it was a very polite debate. Despite the fact you had CBS in there really trying to trip up JD Vance. Despite that, though, it was such a nice debate. All right, let's take a look at Danica Patrick had a comment that she shared. Danica Patrick, former professional race car driver and model, her take on the impressive, a single word about JD Vance, impressive, and his photo then down below, which she shared on her social media. And then there was one other story that I wanted to share with you this morning. And this is from Newsmax. The former Israeli prime minister, because the story involving Israel and Iran and what's happening right now over in the Middle East is really is a big one. And so the former Israeli prime minister posted a statement on X calling for Israel to target Iran's nuclear weapons. And he said, this is his full statement. Israel has now its greatest opportunity in 50 years to change the face of the Middle East. The leadership of Iran, which used to be good at chess, made a terrible mistake this evening. We must act now to destroy Iran's nuclear program, its central energy facilities, and to fatally cripple this terrorist regime, to strike the head of the octopus of terror that in its cowardice sent its tentacles to murder us, while the Ayatollahs sat safely in their palaces. This is, again, now is the moment, saying a nation of lions has united and proven its strength over the last year, which I think Israel has. I've talked about Israel a lot on the program, shared this news as to what's going on. Not only Israel, but what Jewish students have faced on college campuses in this country is just has been shocking and really troubling to me. But this comment about, it's time to take action. These are time when history knocks at our door and we must open it. This opportunity must not be missed. So that story is being shared at you can find that story at newsmax.com. Steve, no, I've never failed one of the robot checks that you saw. Although there are questions as to whether I'm a robot on the fritz. I want to thank you for joining me. That's all I've got for you this morning. But I want to thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate this interaction with you. It's really a nice opportunity. I love the comments that you're making, so I hope all of you will keep that up. Because I'm trying to look at my screen and pull up various news stories so that you can see them, so you can know where to go find them for yourselves. So I'm looking at those, and then I'm also trying to keep an eye on your comments, and I really appreciate you being here. So if you'll show me a little bit of gratitude by hitting the thumbs up, hitting the like button, it's very much appreciated. And I hope to see you again tomorrow. I hope you'll return. I'll see you coming up tomorrow. So long until then, and may God bless.